Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass. Now, a few weeks ago, I was in the studio doing a little bit of recording for a drummer friend of mine, and he commented on an aspect of my playing that I'd always taken for granted, and I haven't spoken about too much in any of my lessons, even though it's a pretty important part of getting a more polished tone. When I'd finished recording one of the takes, he brought up the track in Pro Tools and commented on the consistency of the dynamics. Looking at the waveform, you could see that everything was nicely even. To be fair, it was a baseline when consistency of attack made sense. You don't always want that, but in this instance, it was a good thing. So this week, let's have a quick look at how you can focus a little more on your picking attack and how you can, in effect, be your own compressor. Now, for those of you that don't know, a compressor, be it a pedal or a rack mount unit, is designed to affect the dynamics of a signal. So that's basically the variations in volume. So as an example, if I play a simple pedal bass line and then vary the picking attack, so we're going loud, quiet all over the place, you might get something like this. You know, all over the place. Now, if I add a compressor into the mix, like my trusty old MXR M87 here, I can compress the signal and minimize all of those volume changes. So with the compression, the loud parts get quieter and the soft parts get louder, so it all meets up in the middle. So when I play that with the compressor, and you know, I will move around a little with the dynamics, even though the sound of the attack might change a little, the volume stays pretty much the same. Now there, I was changing the attack quite a lot. I was, you know, getting quite quiet and quite loud. But you can hear there that the volume stays quite consistent. Now, there are obviously differing degrees of this and various effects that we can create depending on how we set the compressor, but that's pretty much what a compressor is. So, compression is used all the time in studios, and you'll find it used a lot by sound guys at gigs, even if you don't realize it. I'm not dissuading you from using compressors at all. They're a great tool for many different applications. However, we're going to look at focusing on our picking technique so we can be our own compressor. We're going to try to gain control of the dynamics in our hands so we can create variations in attack, accents, and volume as and when required. So, first of all, let's just try playing a simple pedal bass line just as I played before on a C, 3rd fret of the A string. You want to just play 8th notes at a comfortable pace. Okay, so when you do that, I want you to try avoiding any accents in there. So we don't want this, you know, with no accents there, you just want it straight. Okay, ba 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 ba. So try that bass line, listen to what you're playing, and be really honest with yourself. How consistent were those notes? If you really want to check on them, try recording yourself and looking at the audio track in a wave editor like Audacity. You want them to look as even as possible. Now, if you're having problems with keeping consistent, try picking with one finger, maybe the index finger. So try that first and focus on keeping everything even. Keep pedaling for a while and listen out for any changes in there. You want to build up the muscle memory in the hands whereby you can feel what it's like to play a consistent 8th note. Once you feel okay with one finger, go back to 2. Now, the problem here is that there are a bunch of different variables that can mess with your picking. There's the position of the hand and the fingers, there's differing strength between the two fingers themselves, and stamina also plays a part. It's not always one thing. Now, I personally like to use rest stroke when it comes to picking so that both fingers come back to the thumb or the string in the same place. That way, I get this kind of haptic feedback loop. The touch of the finger to the thumb or string is a physical signal of the note and the velocity. So that's a pretty good tip for a start. So if I'm going to be playing that C, I put the thumb there on the E string. As I'm picking, those two fingers always come back in to the thumb there. So like I say, it's this kind of haptic kind of feedback loop. I can feel how hard I'm hitting. Now, the main thing that I used to work on when I was younger in this regard is the picking strength variation between the two fingers. There's always likely to be one of those fingers stronger than the other, and often it's going to be this middle finger, the second finger. So if I play this pedal bass line again and I start on that middle finger, I'm purposely playing a little harder there on the second finger. So if that's you, if you identify that as something that you're doing, you know, accenting on that second finger all the time, then just play softer with it. Now, that sounds like common sense and it sounds like an easy thing to do, but it's quite subtle and you might find it quite tricky at first. You know, you'll end up playing a lot lighter, and then you're going to be lighter than the index finger. You know, it's very subtle, and you really have to focus on that to try and even them out. Okay. Now, obviously, if your index finger is the stronger of the two, then you'll have to do the same thing with that. And also, remember, you could, you know, do the opposite and actually increase the strength on the weak finger. But I would avoid doing that, because if you're not careful, you're going to start playing harder and harder and harder, and before you know, it all gets out of hand. So you really want to keep at this nice sort of moderate strength, you know. So that's usually going to involve bringing the stronger finger down. So instead of, we have, okay? So that's just a basic exercise to get you started. Once you can play that pedal consistently, you can try playing more notes and crossing strings. So you could try, you know, on the E string, A string, D string, G string, and then you can start crossing the strings. So let's say we take a simple G major scale, we could try playing 4 notes per scale degree, which would sound like this. Okay, so we're just looking for that consistency of attack as we work across. Now, once you feel a little more comfortable with getting that consistent tone, you can start controlling things a little more by adding accents into the mix. So let's take that pedal on a C again. And this time we're going to put an accent on 1 and 3, okay? So that's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... hear that accent in there. Then you can try accenting on each beat. So then when you start on that second finger, if you start the actual pedal bass line picking with the middle finger, it's always going to be accenting on that finger. You could also try playing groups of 3 where we alternate between the 2 fingers, which would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So when you do that, if you start on the middle finger, it's going to be accent on middle, then on index, middle, index. You just alternate round and round. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So by paying attention to this side of your playing and focusing on the picking velocity, you should be able to play unaccented and accented in any way that you want. Accenting notes is great and it's important in creating the correct feel, but before you accent, you need to have control of the fingers so you can play unaccented. It's very much like a singer applying vibrato. Vibrato is great, but you should work on your pitching and creating a clean, pure tone first. That way, you can control when and where that vibrato is applied. You don't want to be at the mercy of your own habits or deficiencies. Okay, so please like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. The lesson material can be found over at Talkingbass, so just hit the link in the info below, and while you're there, check out the lesson map where you'll find hundreds more free bass lessons all categorized and systemized for ease of navigation. Then sign up for free to gain access to even more cool practice resources and downloads like the Scale Reference Manual ebook. Okay, I'll see you next week.